You didn't get into business to buy yourself a job. You are your own boss. You get to make these shifts in your time and in your flow. They're going to be even more prevalent if you are, I could be wrong, but I think women, our emotions and our cycles also play a part in this. And I think that we will have more fluctuations because of how the female body, brain and literal chemicals in our body impact this kind of thing.
This is the Born to be Brilliant podcast, helping you harness the habits and unlock the tools to bring you more meaning, vibrance, and the personal power to help you shine like the diamond you are.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Born to be Brilliant podcast. So I am here with you today solo without a guest because this is something I really want to talk about, and that is how we as visionary, creative entrepreneurs, sometimes we struggle to be put into boxes or to carry labels. And I'm sure I am not alone when I say that I have definitely had times where I found it almost difficult to articulate something because it doesn't conform to a typical classic label or title that, may be expected out there in the world. Or another example being like frameworks and processes where it's like, this is how this gets done. And I'm like, it doesn't really work for me. I feel like I need to do that a different way. And I'm sure I'm not alone in this. And I think that often when we are creative types, that can be the case. We can struggle with those things. I'm sure there are people that this will resonate with, but have you ever worked with a coach or a mentor and they have a way of working? And I fully respect that. You need to have boundaries, right? And you need to have systems and you need processes to make sure your business works slickly and smoothly so that you can serve your clients. But what if that client is really struggling to get the benefit of your wonderful coaching because they're having to follow a particular process that's really for you and for your benefit? I've definitely experienced that before. And I'm not going to lie, it means that coaching relationship doesn't tend to work or last very long. And that doesn't mean it's bad or it's wrong. It just means that it didn't fit for me and that particular coach perhaps wasn't able to adapt to suit me. So therefore I'll work with somebody who does and it does fit, which is great, which is why there is no one size fits all here. And we have to tap into the experts and the ways of working that do work for us, or those that are really flexible. And then, that could be down to something like, that could be the platform that they use. Oh, you have to access me on here. And it's like, oh, I don't really use that. That doesn't work for me. I know some people will join a program where a large portion of the value is held inside of something like perhaps a Facebook group. And for some, that's perfect. They love using them. That's really familiar for them. They know how to access that from their phone. It's in their pocket. Or where for others, it might be like, oh, I'm never going to go there. I won't check it. I'll miss out. That's not going to work for me. So yeah. And for some people, they're adaptable, and for others, they're not. So I think there can be a real tension between structure and freedom. And how do you balance that? You need structure, of course, but what about that freedom to flow? And I thought this was just a really interesting thinking point for us all to consider, both on the sort of coaching, mentoring, service provider level, but also from the recipient. And quite often we are both, right? We in various places, we're going to play both parts. If we're running a business that provides any kind of service or any kind of process that's followed for our customers or clients, we're going to need those processes in place to do a good job. But on the receiving end, how do we flex? I'm going to put this into bricks and mortar context now. And I heard a story recently that was exactly this, where a group of people went to a restaurant and it was a very nice restaurant. They were spending good money there. But due to the structure and the system that this establishment had in place, you had to go in, if you were in the restaurant, you could have that menu. But if you went in this, I think it was the garden area or something else, there was a pizza oven garden thing. And you could have that in that area. And I understand wholeheartedly, they probably have a system there that really, really works for them, and it's efficient for them, and it works for their staff, and it keeps the whole process flowing smoothly. But when you have a large group and they're potentially spending a large amount of money and they're all sitting together in a particular area, and one person in the group's like, but I really, really would like the pizza actually, and I can't have that here. Could they make an exception? Could they flex? Could the restaurant go, we don't normally for these reasons, but there are reasons. So actually, do you know what? Let's be flexible here. They don't have to shout it from the rooftops and tell everyone and create chaos in the restaurant. But they could say to that person, yeah, don't worry, we'll make this work for you. What happens? The customer feels special. They feel looked after, and everybody in that group is really, really happy, and they go away and everyone they tell about the experience they had there is really positive. And so it's everybody benefits, right? Everybody wins. And no, the restaurant don't have to change their structure and it really, make it difficult for their lives. They're just making that exception in that. That's what I mean by being flexible with your structures and your boundaries and your rules. And I see this a lot in the restaurant industry. It's like, oh no, you can't have that bit of food until half an hour's time when we switch from that menu to that menu. It's like, can't or won't. Could. I'm pretty sure the food's in the kitchen because it's on the menu that opens in 15 minutes, and you could do it now, couldn't you, really? And that's where I think flexibility and initiative needs to come in. I think restaurant analogies are really easy to give, but in the digital world and in the online space, when your product or your service is delivered remotely or digitally, the same comes in. There's still that human aspect and that end user and that personal touch and making sure something fits for the person a bit more. I really do think that can be beneficial without sacrificing all your boundaries and so on. I think the other key to this is knowing what works for you as an individual. So I teach some of my clients and students and people when it comes to productivity and time management. For some people, a great tool for that is using a default diary. So, setting up your default week, mapping that out so that that, on these days you do these sorts of things at these times. And it might be, that you spend Monday morning on your numbers and your KPIs and whatever, and then you have a creative window where you work on content or whatever, and you have windows where that's client facing time and that's marketing time, and you can map your week out like that. And that can be a useful exercise almost just as a sense check. Can I fit all the different moving parts? Can I wear all the hats in my business? And do they fit the hours I actually have in my week? So it can be a great exercise. And I recommend that as an exercise just to see how your time fits and if you can fit all the things into the time you're allocating. If you want to run a business as a side hustle and you've got, 2 days a week or maybe even evenings and weekends, will all those things fit in the diary time you have? Great. For some, a default diary is something they can live and breathe by. They can literally follow it every single week, and it helps them to stay on track and to keep the needle moving and work that way. I think that's great for people for whom that's great. I also am going to be really stereotypical here. Not exclusively, but I think typically masculine energy, even, males even that are working a 9 to 5 kind of mindset. Again, I think that works. I go to work, I do these things, I go home, I finish that. When you are, as I know I am and many of our listeners are, when you are entrepreneurial, potentially you work from home, you are also a parent, you've created a lifestyle business so that you have the life that goes with it, the flexibility, you do the school runs, you're there as a parent, maybe. And I'm talking from experience here. I know there will be people for whom that resonates or similar. it could be that you have a business that you run from home, but you're also full-time carer for a family member, and that's why you've structured your business that way. It could be anything, even pets, right? Whatever it might be. If you live that way, you'll know firsthand things happen. Curveballs happen. You have the best intentions, but the school phone and your child's sick and you have to go and pick them up. And suddenly that thing you were going to do, you have to move it. So there can be practical reasons that you need flexibility. Something happens to the dog and you've got to go to the vets, or what else? I'm just thinking of like all the examples. Or one of mine has always been, I've built multiple businesses in this way where I always said I will be a mum who does the school runs and is there for the school holidays. Personal thing I wanted to do through my kids' childhood. That's what I want to do. I want to be there. And again, no right or wrong. That was just my choice, my preference. So there's no way my diary will look the same all year round. It's term time, effectively. It's different during the school holidays. And every single year, the school holidays look different because the kids are a different age. And what they needed when they were 6, 5, 4, very different to when they're 12, 13, 14, 15, very different. So it's an ever-changing and evolving landscape to navigate. And every year, it's like it's the first time again. It's not like, oh yeah, I nailed that last summer, I'll do that again next year. By the way, I never nail it. Every summer I go, oh my God. And every summer I go, and it'll be completely different next year, and I'll be learning all over again. But as soon as you go, oh yeah, then that's okay, I'll roll with it, it suddenly becomes so much more peaceful. But, I think my kids have 18, 19 weeks a year off. That's not including inset days and sick days. That's just their standard holidays. And that's a lot of weeks per year to have to go change to this diary, change to that diary. And as I say, it's not that simple. So for me, flexibility is massively, massively high on my values list. For me, a default diary is utterly pointless. And what that does for me is it almost causes frustration, because oh no, I'm not sticking to it, therefore I'm failing, I am getting it wrong, I am messing up. And it's like, no, you're not. You just weren't meant to stick to it. That's just not you, and that's okay. I'm talking about this from a practical point of view, but let's not ignore also the energetics here. You might not have any of those commitments. You could be a complete solopreneur. You maybe are single, you maybe don't have children, maybe you don't have pets, maybe you don't have any of those outside noises that I've just described. And maybe that's still not, you don't have to navigate school holidays or school runs or anything. And yet you still are like, but I also feel like you, Lucy. And I also don't want that rigidity, because what if you block a set time that you're going to sit to write? Maybe you're working on a book, or you're writing content or whatever, creative writing or video or content, whatever it might be. And you're just not feeling it. What if you block the time to do it and you're like, I can't, it's writer's block, or it's just not coming out for me today. Or you just have a foggy head day and you're like, I just can't produce my good stuff today. My answer to that is don't even try. It's like, it'll be like trying to, push water uphill. You'll not do your best work anyway. Your end result won't be that great. So it probably won't land well. It just won't flow nicely. It will feel so forced and pushed and maybe rushed. It just won't be your best work. The best thing to do is don't. Maybe you're really better suited to number crunching that day, or, taking off some more administrative tasks, or taking the day off and maybe you actually just need to go and be in nature, or just let stuff just settle in your body. Those of you who are attuned to your energy will understand what I mean by this. And those of you that maybe aren't so much, just take note, because it's okay. And when you are your own boss, you didn't get into business to buy yourself a job. You are your own boss. You get to make these shifts in your time and in your flow. And they're going to be even more prevalent if you are, I think, I could be wrong, but I think women our emotions and our cycles also play a part in this. And I think that we will have more fluctuations because of how the female body, brain, and literal chemicals in our body impact this kind of thing. And I think that it's also exasperated if you're neurodivergent. If I know I can speak from an ADHD perspective, and I don't doubt it's it's not dissimilar for other neurodiversities, that can play a part too. You can be fired up and in super hyper focus, or you can be really brain fogged and struggling, and leaning into those and knowing how to optimize your output. The other thing that can happen for all of my fellow visionary creatives, you can have one of those things where you just have, I call them divine downloads. You're driving along, or you're in the shower, and you're like, and something just suddenly becomes so clear, or a message you want to get out there, and so it just is, the passion literally bubbles up in your body, and you want to act on it, and you want to act on it now. And then, I even still do this, but if you note it down, if you park it for later, I do sometimes do that. Better to do that than let it go. But the better thing still is to capture it in the moment with that energy and with that passion. That's where this episode's come from. It was literally in my energy, and I'm hoping that if I'd written this down and was like, oh yeah, I'll do that episode later, it would not come out the same as it comes out when you're really feeling it, because you feel in your bones and your being the message you're conveying. And I guarantee that therefore it will land and resonate better with the person it's meant to resonate with. So sometimes you do have to almost like go brush all the stuff off your desk, clear the path. I have to do this thing right now. I'll come back to that later. I think of sometimes like an old crazy wild-eyed scientist, gotta do this work right now. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to encourage people to be irresponsible in business. Like, sometimes we have commitments in our business and you don't shift that. When I'm very, very passionate about, when you commit to somebody else has made time and they're going to show up for you, you be there. Like, I don't like it when people, no show or let people down. Yes, things happen, and they happen, and you can let people know, like, things do happen, but not for that sort of thing. You don't just go, yeah, do you know what? I'm not going to bother with this session I've got planned with you today because I've just had this idea and I need to action it. No, that's not fair. You park it and you save it to the other side of the session, maybe. I'm talking more about your behind the scenes work. So your front facing work, your commitments to your clients, you're showing up for things that you have, where you're showing up for others in some capacity. They are solid. You don't move those. Not unless it's an absolute emergency. I'm talking about you doing your behind the scenes work, whether that is the admin and the book work, or the numbers and the figures, or the marketing, or the creative, or the expression, or maybe who's to say that actually taking 3 hours to go and meditate isn't the most productive thing you'll do in a week. In fact, a lot of people would argue that it is the most productive thing that you'll do in a week. And yet we don't carve out that time for that. We don't set time aside for that, but we can. And I do believe there's an energetic part there. It is important to lean into where your energy is at, where your passions, your emotions are at. And I do believe that we should lean into that more. Does that mean that you should just start every day with so how do I feel today? What do I fancy doing? No, I don't think you'll move your business forward if you live that way. So I do believe we need a certain amount of intention and structure and planning. And I do think those are really, really important in business. I'm again talking about not being so boxed and bound by those things that you extinguish the creative flow, the passionate energy, and I believe then, therefore, your highest output. So it's a balance of both, isn't it, really? It's where flow meets function, if that makes sense. Intuition, creativity, our emotional intelligence, these things work best when they're partnered with strategic tools. So it's having both, it's putting them together. So what are some practical ways then that we can keep the flexibility alive? How do we make our systems and our processes and our frameworks breathable so that we don't feel stifled, trapped, or boxed in by them? I think one thing could be buffer time, space, white space, allowing that white space. So we set the intention, but we have room to maneuver. We can, it's moving parts. I'm picturing Google Calendar, and it's like you've put these things in, but there is room to go, okay, that's just going to have to shift that there, and this is going to need to go here. Allowing yourself that flexibility and being adaptable and accepting that it's as it needs to be. And same with routines. I'm a stickler for great routines, and I believe that great habits come from great routines. We don't do the workout every day unless we attach it to a time and a task, and it follows suit, and it just becomes part of how you maneuver. So what do those look like for you? What are the habits that you need to structure you to your optimal output? For me, getting good sleep, waking up in the morning, pressing play on a workout that I do at home sets me up for my day. If I don't do that, I don't feel like I feel a little off kilter. It has all the benefits, of course, exercise, energy, endorphins, dopamine, whatever, all the stuff, right? But if it wasn't attached to that point in my day, it wouldn't just happen when I'm free. I wouldn't be like, oh yes, I'm going to start my day, and then at some point I'll take a little break and I'll just do, half an hour workout. I wouldn't. I absolutely would. I've tried. It doesn't happen. Would not happen. It only happens because it's attached to a routine for me. So what habits do you want to instill and will support you, and where do you put them and attach them so that does work for you? So I think these are the practical things that create the flexibility and the freedom within the framework that we really, really need. And then knowing when we have seasons of intensity and seasons of rest. Because there are times when we do have to just knuckle down and push through the hard stuff. And, whilst keeping the essential elements of our well-being in check, making sure we are putting fuel in our bodies and getting some sleep and so on, we might be pushing the limits a little bit because we're in an intense time of a particular thing and for a particular reason. But knowing immediately that this is temporary, and then resetting and going, right, now I'm going to put some real intention behind rest, recovery, recuperation, and getting my energy stores, back up and firing. I think it's knowing that and having that awareness. And I think then the other part is that permission, giving yourself permission to do it differently. I think that copying other people's, I've shared some of my things, but that doesn't mean they're the things for you by any means. It could look different for you. Other times you do hear someone else and go, that would work for me. And so brilliant. Then they are, then they're great tips and inspiration. But I think it's aligning with your own rhythm, your own values, your desired outcomes and why, like purpose, and then allowing yourself that, giving yourself that permission to do it your way, and not feeling that you are in some way getting it wrong, messing up or failing because you're not conforming to a certain way or a certain person's formula that they said was the way to do it, because there's never just one way to do most things, to be fair. So I hope this has been a useful episode. Please do reach out to me, contact me, and links are in the show notes. You can check out Instagram. I am Lucy Shrimpton on Instagram. Send me a DM over there. That's the place that I'm most likely to pick up and be able to have a quick back and forth with you. I would love to know if there was a particular takeaway that you had in this episode. It really is valuable, and you guys are the inspiration for what I share, because it's through things that you say and share with me that it sparks the thought that gives me that that's a message I need to get out there today. So I would love to hear from you, over particularly on Instagram, but wherever. And please do like and follow the podcast, whether you are a watcher on YouTube or a listener on your favorite audio platform. Leave a review, like this, share it with somebody, pay it forward, share this with somebody that you're thinking, I know someone that could really use this message today. and pay it forward, because between us we can put ripples out there into the world that really helps everyone to build upon that holistic success and sense of amazing value. Thanks so much for listening. See you soon.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, go out there and shine your light bright because you were born to be brilliant.